Today we are talking about a multi-billion-dollar market, the grey market of the watch industry. In the following explanation, I give you a general idea of what the grey market is and what it is not. This is not the single truth as to how the entire grey market works. This is a simplified representation of this market and a brief explanation of why it exists in the first place. Before we go any further, let me stress that we are not talking about stolen watches or fake watches. That would be the black market. So what is the grey market? The grey market is said to account for over 20% of the market of luxury watch sales, a number that continues to grow year over year. While the industry does not like to talk about the grey market, surely the sheer size of this market is too big to just ignore. So without further ado, let's start to demystify this topic. We begin our journey here with a very basic look at the watch industry and the watch market. You have the manufacturer who makes watches, some popular, some not so much. You have the authorized dealers, which are essentially brick-and-mortar stores located in expensive locations, featuring beautiful interiors and exteriors, and as a result have very high overhead costs. And finally, there is the customer. For convenience sake, I have left out the distributors here in the drawing. The manufacturer in general does not do direct sales to consumers, although this is slowly changing. Instead, they will sell watches to the authorized dealers through the distributors. The dealer adds these to their stock until a customer comes along. The customer will ask for a watch and the dealer then sells that watch to the final customer. Deal done. Now, that didn't clarify anything about the grey market, now did it? That is because reality is a little bit different from the first example. In reality, you have the same players here, but the supply looks quite a bit different. Firstly, the manufacturer will supply its dealer with a whole set of watches. In a worst-case scenario, many of which aren't necessarily selling super well and a few that are selling well. The manufacturer sells this batch to the dealer and the dealer has to add these watches to their inventory. A customer comes along and sure enough, he wants a popular watch. Now, say at quarter end, the dealer has to buy yet another set of watches from the manufacturer. These get added to the inventory once again. A new customer pops along and now wants, you guessed it, the popular watch. The dealer sells that watch from inventory to the customer. Surely you've noticed that the dealer is having a bit of an issue with managing inventory at this point. So what is he to do with this stock? This is where the grey market enters the scene. A grey market dealer may not have a brick-and-mortar store, perhaps just a website to maintain and, as a result, much less overhead costs. The grey market dealer will offer to buy the excess inventory in bulk at discounted rates, of course, and the retailer is happy to move this stock and make room for better selling inventory in the future. Grey market dealer now shouts out to the world that he has a specific watch for sale at a much lower price. Suddenly, a number of interested buyers appear. A new market has just been created. The grey market dealer gets in touch with the customers and is happy to sell them the watches at a reduced price. Note that it is not necessarily in this order. A grey market dealer will often also sell watches that they do not have in inventory and will only source these after a sale has been concluded. Now, there is even more to this story. Sometimes the manufacturer completely overestimates the demand for a particular watch. As a result, these don't even make it to the authorized dealers anymore, and instead end up directly at the grey market dealers. Here again, the grey market dealer will offer to buy the excess inventory in bulk at heavily discounted rates and will then again be able to sell these watches at discounted rates. This is the grey market. The grey market for rare watches is similar but slightly different. So let's have a look at a pretty dark example here of what it could look like. Again, this is simplified for illustration purposes. We start our adventure with the same players. Now, dealing with rare watches, the inventory of the authorized dealer is empty. A customer comes along and asks for a hot watch, but is told it is simply not available. The customer gets upset. Another customer comes along, shouting he is willing to spend double the price on that particular watch. Money is no issue. The retailer still has no watch, but the grey market sure took notice. And sure enough, at some point the manufacturer supplies its dealer with that very rare watch. The retailer is aware that the market price for this watch has essentially doubled compared to what he is allowed to sell it for. And he gets an idea. The retailer might be tempted to strike a deal with the grey market dealer and sell the watch to him instead. And the grey market dealer can now sell the watch at twice the retail price, unrestricted by the brand's guidelines and rules, making a very healthy profit, further upsetting the other customer. So you see that the grey market is just a logical result of over or under supply. Where there is a discrepancy between the retail price and the market price, a grey market deal is never really far away. It is highly unlikely that the grey market will go away anytime soon, so I hope this explanation was helpful and provided you a high-level understanding of this very market. If you have any questions or comments, please just let me know in the comments and I will be happy to respond.